Yes, it is. Thank you guys so much for the birthday wishes. I heard from so many of you guys last weekend. It was a good birthday. I love combining the past with the present. Who else likes to do that, right? Like, see where you came from and what you've achieved. So we went to Chicago, which is where I came originally to the United States, and I got to visit where I lived first. It's come a long way. It was much more ghetto when I lived there. And it's really nice. We had a lot of fun. So thank you so much for that. This morning, we have a couple guests joining us all the way from Washington State, Jolene, Anthony, Ryan. They're here to just kind of see how we do things in Texas. So welcome everyone, and just sit back and enjoy the ride, because it's gonna be a crazy one. We have 14 weeks left this year. Now, not in the entire year. We have 14 weeks between now and November 30th, because the second December 1st rolls around, you're writing your deals for January, right? So we have 14 weeks left to make a dent in 2021. And we are definitely a company of results. We are also a company of grit, of only leaders, of wealth, of teamwork, and of humility. So who on your teams or any other teams, like, who's showing up that way? Who do you want to give a shout out to? Anybody that comes to mind?
Yeah, there's an agent on the Austin team that I would like to shout out for results and only leaders and grit. Kaylin Martin has kind of come out of the gate like a bat out of hell. She's taken 3 listings in her first few months. And then it hasn't been easy. Right. She's had a couple of difficult clients, and she has stayed the course. She's getting really, really good results from that, and a lot of really good experience that's going to really help her in her career. Yeah, she's our queen of listings right now. And I just ran numbers with her for a Sphere listing that's like 7 figures. So I think she's going to get that one too, and that'll be really good. So anyway, shout out to Kaylin.
I love that. Oh my gosh, guys, it took me probably like 8 years to get my first like $1 million listing. So I am so proud when people do that so early on in their career. It's incredible. It's incredible. Any other shout outs that you guys have this morning?
I'll give a shout out. I'm going to give a shout out to Gus Ramirez. He's a big helper on our team. So like, he's helped on a couple things recently. One of note was like Akash had this massive sign that he needed to get put up for his commercial land and a residential deal. And this thing would not fit in his SUV. So fortunately, Heather volunteered her truck. Gus and Akash went and picked it up all the way down near Dripping, drove it all the way up to Manor. Gus apparently used all the skills that he learned at Lowe's and did some amazing, I don't know, whatever we want to call it. I wasn't there to see the install, but made it happen. Got some good pictures, made it all the way back down to Dripping, and, just as a teammate. And then he also helped out one of our other teammates yesterday. Won't even get into the story, but very helpful and grateful to have someone like him on the team.
Man, that's good teamwork, you guys. Akash, Gus, Heather, awesome. I have a couple, as you guys are thinking about it or raising your hand. I want to give a shout out to Elizabeth Gassos in Dallas for the value of only leaders and teamwork. She is very learning based, as you guys know, but she takes it a step further. Every time I ask for volunteers to contribute or to share, she always steps up to share. And usually like at like a moment's notice. So I want to give you a shout out, Elizabeth, for that. And then I want to give a shout out to Brandon Ramirez in San Antonio for the value of wealth. He closed on a property last week, which is very exciting. So really happy to see all of that happening for you guys. Anybody else? Anything just deep in your heart and you got to get it out?
Adelina, I'll share.
Yes, sir.
I feel like I'm always bragging on Joseph over here. However, I'm going to brag on him for something a little different. As well, a lot of y'all may not know, Joseph's been with me for 8 years now, and he's always been like my right-hand man, like, basically doing the 80%. Well, yesterday he sends out a text saying our offer was accepted. And I was like, what? And so he had been working with a buyer and went through the whole process, showing the houses, submitting the offer, did everything himself, and got an executed contract. And I just wanted to share that because of how much growth he's had since joining this organization. And I just want to let everybody know what this organization does bring out in us. And so I just want to say good job, Joseph, and thank you for just keep raising the bar.
I love that. Jaime, well said. One of the things that I think about is, am I the person who brings out the best in others? Is the environment that I'm in, is it bringing out the best in me, right? Because that's how you know, right? I love that. Awesome. All right, love that. Okay, let's get going. We have had 33 weeks so far this year. Let's see what we've accomplished. I'm going to share my screen with you. And when I do, let's go into presentation mode. So here is what's been happening for us. I'm sure everybody can see it by now. We've been through about 18 months of Zoom. So here's how to read this chart, guys. 2020 is last year. 2021 is this year. Change year over year, right? So like compared to where we were last year, how are we doing this year? Change week over week. This is a new category, right? So compared to where we were last week, how are we doing this week, right? And this is really good. You can also apply this to your own business, right? But this is what's going on for us. We have 93 agents in Texas. 10 of them are in launch right now. And we added an agent last week. Whoever you are, you're awesome. Glad you're here. Listings. Obviously, we don't have a lot of red. Like red is not our favorite color. I know we're KW, but in this instance, red is not our favorite color, right? So we're still a little short compared to last year on listings. I know it's our number one focus. And we didn't increase from last week. Okay, this doesn't mean you guys didn't take listings. You guys definitely took listings. What happened is those listings pended. Right? So we had listings that pended, we just didn't increase it. Does that make sense? So you want to look at that, right? It's awesome when we get a listing, but we want to make sure that as they pend, we get more, right? Buyer reps, we're up 28%. You can see 397 buyers. I mean, whoa, that's a lot of buyers. We are +1 for the week. So we pended a whole bunch, we took a whole bunch. And at the end of the day, we were still +1, which is good. Pending contracts. This is really, really good, really good. We had a ton of closings last week because what's happening? It's towards the end of the month and we're starting to close things out, right? We have 238 pending contracts. We're still up 25% for the year, but it is 2 less pendings compared to where we were last week because we closed things out. So anyway, when I look at this, here's what I look at. I look at 397 buyer reps and 87 listings, and I'm like, we got plenty to pend, right? So really that's our focus, like going into this next week, who on our list needs to find a house, who on our list needs a price adjustment, that sort of thing, right? Because these are your uncashed checks. We want to get them to cashed checks, right? The sooner we do get them to pending, the sooner we have something in our bank account and the sooner our client is actually happy, right? Pending volume, 98 million, we're up 72%, right? We're up $4 million in pending volume from last time. Our average price point right now is $412,000. It's the highest it's ever been on pending. So nice job. Closed units, we had 24 closed units just last week. We are at 817. We have broken the 800 number. We have never closed 800 properties, but we now have closed 800 properties. So that's really exciting. And when I think about that, I think about our average sales price right here being $373. Look at the difference. Like that's a $50,000 difference between closed and pending, right? So you guys continue to raise the bar, which is really, really cool. Year to date, $8.44 million in GCI, which is awesome. Here's why it's awesome. Outside of making a lot of money, you guys' commission rate is 2.77%. That's a very high commission rate, you guys. Really high. Really love it. 4.22 million is what we've paid our agents year to date, and our agents' income is up 105% compared to last year. on this slide, this is the last slide before I stop boring you with just data. I love to see like people who have been here at least the year, right? Teams that we've had at least the year, and seeing like our growth in units, our growth in sales volume, our growth in GCI, our growth in agents. And the most important thing that I want you guys to pay attention to is this thing at the bottom called per agent productivity, right? And here's why it's important. The National Association of Realtors last year, so it's like, this isn't like stuff from like 10 years ago or 5 years ago, it's last year's numbers. And you can look it up at the National Association of Realtors website. Average agent with 10 years experience, guys, closes 10 properties per year, right? And you can see that most of us are really close to that. And it's only August, and we haven't even finished out the month of August. And we have, I don't know that like, there's many people who have even been in real estate 10 years. I mean, I don't think anybody on my team other than me has been in real estate 10 years. So you guys are far outpacing what is happening in the real world. And then the median gross income of a realtor last year was $43,330 before expenses, right? So I just wanted to shout out that you guys are winning at a really high level, right? Price points are different everywhere in Texas, but every single team is winning at a much higher level than the industry as a standard. So I was really happy to see that, and I wanted to share that with you guys. This morning, we have Elizabeth Gassos and a couple others just sharing. They listened into something that Gary does, which is called Mega Camp. And I know you guys are all busy right now, so don't even worry if you weren't able to see it. If you guys are interested, I'm super happy to hook you up. Elizabeth, do you want to share your screen? Do you have anything you want to share, or do you want me to spotlight you? Okay, I will spotlight you. Let me spotlight Elizabeth. Elizabeth, what did you learn? What do you want to share with the group this morning?
Hello. Well, I just wanted to talk about Gary's economic update. I don't know how many of you actually were on Mega Camp and watched it. In the future, if you guys ever get to go to Mega Camp or attend another virtual Mega Camp, if anything, like attend this one day. Same thing with with family reunion. That is always where I get like the most notes written down. I feel like it's very high level. So regardless of where you are in your business, these are things that are going to be important to you. They're also just great talking points. Literally last night, I was at the pool with my friends, and there's a guy that was a loan officer, and we just started chatting, and then someone else who wasn't in real estate is like, oh, I heard about this company. I was like, I know about that company. And you're able to contribute quite a lot to conversations that aren't necessarily related to buying and selling houses. And people know that you're knowledgeable, that you pay attention, and that you are like a great agent. So that's my little spiel of why you should watch it, even if you can't attend in person. And I wrote down a bunch of notes. I don't have anything prepared. Again, tell
us all the notes. Yeah, give us. Yeah,
I was rushed.
Give us the spill.
So I'm going to just kind of talk about the points that I thought were most important. But if you guys interpreted something differently or something along the topic that you want to chime in on, please, by all means, do. Again, these are not my words. These are Gary's and Jason Abrams and everyone else that was on the panel yesterday. So first thing Gary said was, if you plan to stay in the house for 7 to 8 years, you're good. And to me, we already knew that, right? But it's always a good thing whenever buyers are hesitant. They're like, what if the market goes down, blah, blah, blah. One of the questions you should be asking them, how long do you plan to stay in this property? If they say 7 to 10 years, then you can just tell them you'll be fine. The market is cyclical. And if you stay in the house that long, you will outlast whatever happens in the market. If someone plans on staying there only 1 year, then that's when you might want to have a different conversation. But again, that's still a tried and true statement that's been going on for a while. The other thing was inventory is following trends. So how he explained that is before the housing crisis, prices were going up steadily, just little by little. And then the housing crisis happened, prices went down, and they've been going back up. But this last year's shift actually put us back in the trajectory of pre-recession, housing recession. So the prices are actually right where they should be. So again, if people say, I'm afraid of a crash, I was like, well, if you bought a house, in 2007 pre-recession, and you still have that house, you're back to 100% normal. normal growth. So that's another great stat to be able to share with your clients. Another thing he said was about listings, and this kind of definitely hit me because I'm not majority listings. Of course, I'll take listings and I like listings, but I'm majority buyers. But he did say, as far as the listing inventory, most of listings are held by a small minority of agents who go after listings. So he says that by default, you're a buyer's agent unless you go after listings. So kind of like made me try to challenge myself a little bit more to get more listings, because you're right, he's right. Buyers are just kind of like, everyone can get buyers pretty easily, I think. It's listings that are the harder thing, and just your competition is really a much smaller pool than all agents. And again, if I'm talking too much or if someone wants to chime in, please do. I'm just reading my notes of what spoke to me.
No, you're good. Everybody's very engaged. Go.
Okay. Next was interest rates. So we all keep saying, interest rates have to go up because there's not much further down they can go, but they have stayed pretty low this whole year. And again, some of the other stuff we'll talk about later will kind of be more evidence that this has to change. But right now, the lowest interest rates were about January at 2.74. I have VA buyers right now at 2.25. So like interest rates are very, very low. They are predicted to go up. They did predict them to go up before those. So I'm not sure how quickly they'll go up. Jay Papazan said 3.75 by the end of 2022, which is quite a, 1% jump. So again, it's another, arsenal for our talks with our buyers of just even sellers as well. It's like, hey, your buyer pool is about to shrink because that's going to be more expensive. And then buyers, hey, your affordability is about to go down. I don't know exactly when, but right now we are at historical lows and it just cannot get much lower. We can't go negative. So other great numbers to talk about. One of the just kind of tidbits that Jason Abrams said, which if you guys don't know Jason, definitely follow him if he's ever in like any classes and stuff. I'm in YP, KWYP, and he shows up a lot in a lot of our talks, and he's awesome. But he just mentioned that he got an offer in on one of his listings that was 100% financing. So that was just kind of a tidbit of like those kinds of things are coming back. I personally do have a lender that will do 100% financing on non-conforming condos. It's like, really? I was like, it is at a higher percentage, but that opens it up to a lot of buyers. So like, start networking with other banks and institutions. I know we have our tried and trues, but if, these kinds of programs are going to be opening up more opportunities for people, we need to start educating ourselves on those. Next is GDP. So I was not by any means an economics major in school or finance. Full disclosure, I cheated in finance in college. Like that was just not my jam. I was a marketing major, but I love how Gary talks about stuff because it just makes it I can understand a little better. So with GDP, it's gross domestic product, is how much products does the US make every year? And it kind of is a good gauge on like wealthy countries versus not wealthy countries. Then he said, pre-pandemic, we were at 9.1% growth for GDP, which I guess is fine. Because he said any growth about 2% is like really strong. We're at 6% growth with GDP. So it's crazy. So that's whenever, government starts stepping in and it's like, hold up, we gotta slow this growth because inflation is next after, all that growth of product. But he also did mention that GDP is not a number influenced much by the service industry. And what industry was hit hardest last year? The service industry. So I expect that to go down a little bit. That growth to go down a little bit once people start going out more and using more services. Because right now everyone's at home, like ordering Amazon, and like doing all the physical things because they couldn't go do all those services. So I think that will come down. But just kind of keep in mind that because GDP is up, inflation is sure to follow. And, we'll talk more about that. Any questions, by the way? That was just my first page of notes. Okay, I'll go on to the next thing. The next thing he talked about is consumer confidence, which I don't know if you guys remember when I spoke, when I reiterated what Adi Pavlovic was saying a couple weeks ago. He said the same thing. Consumer confidence is at an all-time low. So what does that mean for us? They said care calls are very important right now. Like calls of just calling them because they deserve a phone call, seeing how they are, not necessarily a real estate conversation. Care calls are very important. Also, just asking questions is very important because people are not feeling confident about their home buying decisions. So ask them, is anything hesitating you about making this decision? Are you feeling 100% confident? Are you at peace? Are you at ease? Tell me, how I can help. So definitely ask a lot of questions. And a lot of that uncertainty obviously is because of what's going on right now. It's the pandemic, it's the Delta variant, it's opening and closing and mask mandates and not mask mandates, in school, not in school. There's just a lot of things in our world that's changing. So just confidence in general is low. And so we just got to make sure that we're asking our clients lots of questions and not assuming they know anything and not assuming we know what their answers are going to be. Next would be unemployment. So unemployment is at 4.8% right now. Anything below 6% is good, is what Gary said. So 6% unemployment, we're okay with that. It's at 4.8, so way lower. He also says that there's currently 10 million available jobs. Pre-pandemic, there was 7 million available jobs. So there's a lot of jobs. But what does that mean for us? Lots of people changing jobs. That means lots of people moving. That means wage growth. That means being able to move up into new homes. And that also, and the greater, scheme of things does mean if people have to pay people more, then they will have to charge more. And then inflation happens again. So this is a cycle that we're going through. And we just have to be prepared for that. And that's, again, another conversation for people. I'm like, hey, like there's 10 million jobs available right now. Like people are moving a lot to Dallas. I know they're moving a lot to pretty much everywhere in Texas. And so it's a good thing to tell them. They're like, oh, do you think this area is going to grow? I'm like, of course, absolutely. Like there's absolutely no evidence that it will not grow. And here is why. We have a strong job market. We have a strong high paying job market. So therefore lots of people come here and blah, blah, blah. So, you gotta work on your scripts of, having those conversations. But that's just a great stat to get people to understand why buying now is what they need to do, or moving up now, or whatever the case may be. And then inflation was, kind of what is attached to GDP and unemployment. It was inflation. He said 2% or less is good, and we're at 4%. So if we want things to be at 2% inflation, we're at 4% now. So prices for everything are going to be increasing. And then new construction. Again, Audie talked about this a little bit before in the last time I spoke. So it's not new information, but new build starts. We kind of went 10 years without building the amount of houses we should have been building. This is the first year where we're back to 1 million new home starts. So pre-recession, we were doing about 1 million a year historically, and then that sort of stopped. So we have 10 years of missing inventory. And he says that, cities aren't really equipped to make that go any faster. So it doesn't seem like we'll be catching up anytime soon. There's a lot of red tape involved, obviously, because of the available jobs. Skilled labor employment is there's a big shortage for skilled labor. I don't know how many of you guys do a bulk of new construction, but I do. I think I have like 14 new construction deals like pending right now, and they are all behind. And whenever I ask, hey, what's causing the shortage? I just need to tell my clients, I've already set the expectation for them to, that this is going to happen. But he says, I had, my laborers were literally poached from me last week. I need to find new ones. And it's like, so literally they can't do anything in the house until they get new labor. Same thing with supply increases, because back in 08, 09, there was such a shortage, or no one was starting new builds. Sawmills closed. Because sawmills closed, now that they need the sawmills, people are having to figure out who wants to work in a sawmill, and there's this labor shortage. So it's going to be a long time before we are able to make up the difference, but at least we're back to where we sort of should have been. Anything so far? Anyone want to chime in? No?
No, we're just all taking notes.
Okay.
Everybody's typing. Yeah, no, you're good.
Cool. And I'm trying to talk fast too. So affordability, I think we all know affordability is going down, but it's still in our area we are still very affordable compared to, the coasts. So we should still expect lots of people to think that we are in a very affordable market. And also the disparity of median home price versus median income is growing and growing and growing. So again, another reason to try and get as many people into homes as possible, even if it's not their dream home, if it's condo, whatever, like we need to get them into that first house. Like we need to be their advocates there. Forbearance, he says, it's going to happen, which I think all of us don't expect to see a lot of short sales and foreclosures coming up in our markets, just because prices have gone up so high. Hardly anyone is underwater, but obviously that they might come up, but it's not anything that we should be super concerned about. There's one slide that he had up about remote work that I thought was really interesting. It was actually kind of a hard slide to read. So if you, it took me a minute. I was talking to DJ. I'm like, what does this slide say? But pretty much the slide said that physical jobs are back in the office, but professional services, only about 45% of people have gone back to the office. So there is a big portion of that professional, job force that will never go back to the office. So all of those people have a new lifestyle now. They need 2 offices. I know, they need a bigger home just because they're there all day. They don't need to be near downtown. They can move, an hour out to a large home. Or they can even, like, I have clients moved here from Arizona. They're like, we both work from home now, so we want to be next to family. So we're going to move here into like a 3,000 square foot house because we need, 2 offices, whatever. And so we're still going to experience a lot of that. The next part he talked about was more about like e-commerce and just how buying habits have changed in general. But I think it does affect us. Foot traffic, obviously people are going back out a lot more now, but gyms are not back to normal because people bought those home gyms and now they're continuing to use them. So again, another reason for people to buy a bigger home is they want an at-home gym now because they're not confident and comfortable in going back out to gyms. E-commerce in general, like obviously everyone's kind of numbers ticked up on online sales versus in-person sales, but they haven't gone down to pre-pandemic numbers. People have found new ways to buy groceries and they're like, actually, this is really convenient and I spend less money this way. I'm going to keep, buying my groceries online. Same thing with other services. I know for me, DoorDash, I'm just like, well, like, why would I ever go out to pick up food again? I was like, I'll just DoorDash it because I'm so used to it. What Gary kept coming back to is digitally based, physically enhanced in the future. But I think that's also going to come with us. Like I personally, I don't know the last time I've seen, like I've gone to, I think I've been to one closing this year. I hardly ever, because I have a showing assistant, like I don't see a lot of the houses, but like they see me, I'm on social media, I'm in front of them on video, like I am digital, really. They don't see me physically. So I am personally digitally based and physically enhanced. So I think our businesses are going to be moving a lot more that way. And what else? He also obviously mentioned that most businesses, most realtors are going to have professional services bundled in. And we're all just like, yeah, that's old news for us at Place. So that wasn't anything that's super new, but it was good to say like, well, we're already on the right track to have, title and insurance and, all that sort of stuff in-house. But I think that's it. Those are all my notes. So if anyone wants to chime in, if they interpreted something differently, if you think I missed something, I would love to hear from someone else.
I love that. Akash and Gus and other people who were on, did you guys have anything extra to add to that you guys heard differently? Because, right, everybody will hear it from the perspective that they're in, from the bias that we all have, right? Like everybody's got those. Anything that you guys would add to it? No? Okay. Allie, do you want to wrap us up with like what you learned I feel like you do. I can see your face. Wrap us up with what you learned.
I'm just, one of those people that can't say no. And so I'm like, what can I say? I don't know what to say. But the thing, Elizabeth is so great. She always encourages us. Like the other day we were in the office and she said, if you're not on right now and you're in KYP, we've got this great speaker. And I'm not as good at as Elizabeth as remembering names and all the things, but when something sticks in my mind, I'm good at remembering that or resonates with me. And so Elizabeth, who was it that was talking about sleep? And that how important sleep and taking care of yourself was.
Adam Hergenhofer.
So he was talking about that, and that really stuck with me because when I was teaching, I knew how important sleep was, because if I got up and I was tired, there's no way that I could be there for the kids that I was showing up for. And somehow I managed to forget that in real estate. And I'm still emotionally and physically exhausted somehow from doing real estate. And I've just kind of put that to the side. But he had a lot of really good suggestions. And I think sometimes it feels selfish. I mean, this talk has happened all year long because we're all talking about mental health and taking care of ourselves. But when is it actually going to click to where you make a change or change a habit so that you are taking better care of yourself, so that you can take better care of your clients and show up in business differently? So anyway, that I've actually put that into action this week already. I'm going to bed earlier. I'm trying not to look at TikTok until, 10 o'clock at night, not look at my screen, because I do believe that's one of the points that he made, is you really shouldn't look at your screen an hour to 30 minutes before you go to bed, because that blue light's there and it just sticks in your mind. And for me, it is harder to fall asleep. So I want big business this year, just like the rest of us. And so I'm going to have to make that change in order for me to show up in a way that will allow for that to happen.
I love that. I love that. I wasn't sure what you guys were going to share today, so I prepped some. So I'm going to have it for next time, but I want to give you guys a sneak peek because I did all of Mega Camp. I'm only going to give you a sneak peek because I'm not going to go over any of it. So if you're in real estate, then your side hustle is selling more real estate. Congrats on the new role. I want to talk about this. I have like a whole paragraph for everything that I learned. Your number one superpower, do what you say you're going to do. I have a whole topic on that. Messy can make millions, whole topic on that. Are you driven to grow or driven to excel? Whole topic on that. If you can live at the top of the funnel, if you're looking for control, and a lot of you like control, this is it. If you know your conversion numbers, you can predict your business, you get to be in control. Being in control means you know conversion numbers. It's hard for you to figure out who's going to make it and who's not when you're saving everybody. You can't win if you're dead. The path is in the math. Performance equals potential minus interference. Do you make your own clothes? So that is what we're going to talk about next week. And I am really, really interested, as some of you guys who did go to Mega Camp, if you start using this data in a way that you start noticing different outcomes for your clients, positive different outcomes for your clients, would love to hear ultimately what you're saying, how you're positioning it, right? Because we have the information, and then we have the information in action, and that is super, super powerful. So I'm really curious. I am going to email Mindy over at KWRI and see if we can't get her slide deck as soon as possible so we can get that sent out so you guys can see what this was all about. And if you're curious about what the heck are we talking about, just send me an email and I can hook you up. Guys, awesome. People from Washington, thanks for joining us this morning. Elizabeth and Allie, thanks for sharing this morning. Elizabeth and Allie, especially because you do it on the drop of a hat every single time. We appreciate you guys. Have a good rest of the week, guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you later. Bye, guys.